Saraleah. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah Tzvi Meir together with Kol Cholei Yisrael will have a complete and enduring refuah. And with that, let's begin. We have an incredible daf ahead of us today. Mem Daled 44. We are picking up at the Mishnah Mem Gimel Amud Beis 43b. Hacharum Pasal. So also remember again this parak we have transitioned ultimately to the psulim or to the mumin of kohanim. Going from Bechoros, going from animals to kohanim. So Hacharum Pasal. Hacharum is a psul. Ezu charum. What's a charum? Hakol chal shtei einav ka'achas. Rabbi says someone who could literally paint both of his eyes at once. And also what that means is if you're applying eye ointment, that you could just go right across and get two eyes, which indicates that there's no bridge of the nose there. We're going to see that what it really means is the nose is totally sunken in, so that the eyes are on the same level. So the Gemara says, shtei einav lamalo, shtei einav lamata. We're going to define what this means in the Gemara. If his two eyes are above or his two eyes are below, we'll discuss again what these exactly mean. Ein of achas lamala, ve'eino achas lamata. One eye is high, one eye is low. Ro'as ha'cheder ve'es ha'aliyah. What's actually interesting? If you could simultaneously see the upper story and lower story. Again, we'll define what all of these concepts mean. Ke'echad, he's able to see them simultaneously. Or Sachi HaShemesh. So it's actually interesting. Sachi Shemesh, I don't think Rashi here defines it in the Mishnah. Yeah, Rashi says, Sachi Shemesh, Shino Yachal Estakel Kineged Achamo. So it says we're going to see this refers to some type of sun aversion. Someone who cannot be out in sunlight. Sachi Shemesh, V'hazagdon, V'hatziron. So again, the Gemara says we'll see exactly what these mean. We'll see exactly what these mean inside the Gemara. V'shenishru risei einav, pasal mipnei marasayin. And if someone's eyelashes came out, ultimately, again, he would be pasal because of marasayin. I also remember again, as we saw in yesterday's daf, so there's three different categories of mumin. There's what we call biblical mumin, which are the ones that are articulated in the Torah. There's number two, the mumin that are in the category of zera aron. You don't look like a regular person. And number three, maris ayin, which means again are quote unquote difficult to look at. So apparently the Gemara said, Nishuri, if your eyelashes come out, ultimately again that's in the category of maris ayin. Good. Tan Rabban, I'm supposed to say that's time. Last Tan Rabban, charum. What's charum? Chotmo shakua. Charum means the nose is sunken. So the nose is sunken all the way into the face. So the Gemara says, Chotmo shakua. Chotmo solid. Chotmo bowling. Now these are other examples of movement. Solid means ultimately the nose is especially short. That's solid. Chotmo bowling, Rashi says, is the nostrils are sealed off. Chotmo noteif, the nose is especially long. What's the definition of a long nose? Rashi says noteif. Aruch v'taloi milamata misvaso. Literally the nose is so long that it dips below your upper lip. So I'll say, so these are all examples. So minayin, how do I know that all of these are considered to be a mum as well? Talmud lomar o charum. So I'll say, because the pasuk says o. O, ultimately in this context, the Gemara is understanding to be a ribui, to include other things besides the sunken nose. All of these other nose issues create a mum situation as well. Rabbi Yossi Omer ein charum ela kol chal shtei einav ka'achas. So Rabbi Yossi says charum means that he's able to go ahead and literally paint. Apply an eye ointment to two eyes simultaneously. Amrulo, so they said to Rabbi Yossi, Hiflakta, that you're getting a little bit carried away. You will say, remember again, in order to go ahead and apply ointment to both eyes at the same time, what that essentially means is what? Is that the nose is totally sunken, right? Meaning that it's the front of the face is flush. That's pretty severe. They said to Rabbi Yossi, charum doesn't have to mean that degree of sunkenness. Any degree of sunkenness, which is a departure of the norm, so ultimately the Rabbanon say is charum. Rabbi Yossi apparently requires a severe degree of sunkenness. Shtein of lamala, shtein of lamata. Both say top of mem dalad and dalad. Two eyes above, two eyes below. What does that mean? My shtein of lamala, shtein of lamata. What does that mean? Ilema shtein of lamala, dechazi lamala, shtein of lamata, dechazi lamata. So we'll say, if we're saying that we're talking about an eye condition, where the eyes are fixed in such a way that a person only sees upwards or downwards, right? Then when it says Eino achas lamala ve'eino achas lamata, dichazoi eino achas lamata ve'eino achas lamala, So we'll say, so then if you're going to tell me, and when it says one eye above, one eye below, that it's the same thing. One eye sees upward, one eye sees downward, then hainu ro'as ha'cheder ve'es aliyah ka'achos. Then I will say, when the Mishnah spoke about the case of a person who sees the cheder and the aliyah at once, it's the same thing. You're repeating the same case. Ella, rather, what does it mean? Shte'in of lamala, dekaiman lamala, shte'in of lamata, dekaiman lamata. Rather, I will say what this means is, it's referring to the actual place on the face where the eyes are embedded. Shtein of lamala means the eyes are higher on the face than normal. Lamata means they're lower on the face than normal. Eino achas lamala ve'eino achas lamata. Dekaimi eino achas lamala ve'eino achas lamata. Ultimately, again, and when it says one eye above, one eye below, that literally means the eyes are not on the same level with each other. One is higher, one is lower. V'kaimi kesidran nami ve'ro'as ha'cheder ve'es aliyah kachas. And even if the eyes are on the same level, but a person's eyes are fixed in such a way that one eye sees up and one eye sees down, that's also a mum. So essentially what the Mishnah is teaching me is whether the eyes are on the quote-unquote wrong part of the face, too high, too low, that's a mum. Or even if on the same level, but they're fixed in such a position where one is, or I should say, if one is high, one is low, mum. Even if they're on the right place, but one eye is fixed in such a way that it always sees up, one sees down, that's also a mum. So menahani mili. So we'll say, so menahani mili tan rabbanon, be'eno, komasha be'eno. So we'll say, listen to this. So we're doing all of this, because we're doing the Raisa, be'eno. The pasuk's talking about over here, by the movement of a kohen. O gibein, o dak, o tivulal, be'eno. It says the Gemara, komasha be'eno. So we'll say the fact that it says if there's a mum in his eye, that teaches us any mum that's in his eye is problematic. Komasha be'eno mikana amru, shte'in of lamata, shte'in of lamala, eno achas lamala, eno achas lamata, ve'ro'as ha'cheder ve'es aliyah ka'achas. So we'll say in all of these cases, eyes too high, eyes too low. One eye too high, one eye too low. Right? One eye fixed looking up, one eye fixed looking down. O shemedaber im chaveiro v'acher omer li roeh. Or I will say, if a person, his eyes are in such a way where even if he's talking to one person, another person thinks that he's looking at that person. So if I'm talking to Ruvain, but my other eye moves in such a way that Shimon thinks I'm looking at him, that's ultimately also a mum as well. Tan Rabbanon. We'll say first wide line, then Dalad, right after the period. Tan Rabbanon. Iver. So we'll say the pasuk again when speaking about mumin says Iver. Iver literally means blind. So it says the Gemara, Bein suma b'shte'inav, bein suma ba'achas me'inav. So whether this is a person who's blind in two eyes or blind in one eye, chavarvar. Rabbi, so chavarvar means the white flecks in the eyes, white specks in the eyes. V'amayim kavum minay. Rabbi, so how the person has white spots, right, white flecks, or water, constant water in his eyes. That this is also a mum. Talmud lomar ish iver. Well, say therefore the pasuk says ish. Ish ultimately again comes along and adds in an additional grouping of mumin. Amar Rabba, lamali de kasav rachmana ish iver dak tivalul be'eno. So we'll say, why do I need this entire phrase of ish iver? Right, ish iver means a blind man. Dak tivalul be'eno. Remember, dak tivalul is talking about different mumin in the eye. Why do I need all of this? Tzrichi. I need it. Why? Because of Rahman Iver Mishum de Leston Hu Klau. If it would have just said Iver, I would have said Iver as a mum. Why? Because a person can't see at all. Aval Chavarvar Vamai Makvum de Isnu Be. Lo. But I might have thought that what I will say, that a person Chavarvar and Maim Kvuim are situations that impair vision, but there is still some level of vision. I might have thought that's not a mum. Therefore, Kasav Rahman Ish. Therefore, I will say the Torah adds in the word Ish. Ish comes to include even if your vision is impaired, right? There's still some vision, but it's impaired. That's still a mum as well. Because of Rahman Ish, Mishum Dloka Chazi Klal. And if it would have just said Ish, because he's not able to see at all, Aval Machsuraisa Lo. We'll say, what's Machsuraisa? Machsuraisa says Shechasra Mariso Aval Roa Miktsas. Right? Ultimately, he's able to see a bit. So I might have thought that halach. I'm sorry, I read the previous part wrong. The less nube. So fine. Machzraisa means he only has impaired vision. I might have thought that that's not a mum. Therefore, because of Rahman Adak, mishum de mechasran. So I'll say if it would have just said dak, ultimately again, because he's absent vision, aval mebal belisa lo. Look at Rashi Mabalisa is Lavan Haposek B'Sira V'Nichnas B'Shachar. So also Mabalisa refers to any type of what we'll call mix-ups between the black and the white of the eye. That if somehow there's one part that bleeds into the other, that's considered to be a mum as well. But I will say, now interestingly enough, that may or may not impact vision. Right, the person's vision may be just fine after that, but halacha l'maisa that is still a mum. So therefore, because of Rachmana Tivalul, mishum d'mabalbalin. And I might have thought if we just said Tivalul, that's because again, you have an apparent mum where one part of the eye is mixed into the other. Ava mishum mishanyusa lo. But ultimately, again, but because of just Rashi says mishunaisa shemishunos b'ma'amadan kigol lamala o lamata o roa cheder v'aliyakachos. So I will say, I would have thought that in a situation where the eyes see fine, but they're just not on level with each other, I might have thought that's not a mum. Therefore, kasav rachmana be'eno. Amar Rava therefore says hilchach. So we'll say, therefore, we have different categories of eye mumin learned out from different parts of the psukim. Kol machmas kihi yusa asa asya mi'ish. So we'll say, ultimately, at the end of the day, any mum that results in complete blindness, we learn that out from the word ish. Mach suraisa, any mum, we'll say that results in a diminution of vision, right? That ultimately, again, a person sees, but he's vision impaired. So ultimately, again, we learn that out from, midak, from the word dak. Mibal belisa, ultimately, again, if there's something wrong with the eye, right, itself, let's say the vision is fine, but there's something, quote unquote, mixed up within the eye itself, we learn that out mitavlul. Mishanyusa, if the eyes are situated in a mishunadika manner, that we learn out from mibe'eno. So we'll say, so whether the mum results in blindness, vision impairment, something messed up, some type of shinoi in the eye, even without vision impairment, or a misalignment. Thank you, ocular misalignment. Right, good. Right, thank you. Right, so I have some hours if you need any help. So ultimately, again, ocular misalignment, salacha l'maisa, again, that also goes out and results in a mum. Each of them learned out from a different word in the pasuk. So it says the Gemara, Sachi Shemesh. So we'll say the Sachi. What's Sachi Shemesh? Tani Rabbi Yosef, Sani Shemesh. Those who despise the sun. Now Rashi says over here what it means like this is as follows: Sachi Shemesh. Tani Rabbi Yosef Sani Shemesh Shesoni Esan Shemesh and Yochol Liros Makom Shechama Zorechsha. So we'll say this is just not like someone who doesn't like the sun. This is some type of pigmentation issue or light sensitivity, whatever it is. The point is he's unable to really exist in sunlight, and therefore that's a mum. Zagdion. So we'll say this is actually very interesting. What says Zagdion? So Machli Rafuna Chad Mididon v'Chad Midido. So we'll say Rav Huna said a Zagdion is what? If you look at Rashi, Rashi says over Chad Mididon v'Chad Mididon sheyesh lo ayin achas doma la'ayin elu hayosh v'negdi v'ayin achas sheli Rabbi Yehuda hayoshev k'negdo v'yoin mishol. So we'll say, so ultimately again Rav Huna said it's someone who has one eye that looks regular and one eye that looks abnormal. So we'll say, so what Rav Huna did when demonstrating this is he said, a Zagdion, that's someone who has one eye like me, that's the normal eye, and an eye like Rabbi Yehuda, right? Because Rabbi Yehuda apparently had a little bit of a misshapen eye. V'ikbid Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yehuda was a bit offended. Right? So we'll say, of course, right, if you look weird like that guy, right? So we'll say, it's obviously understood. So Mesvei, so where is the kasha? Shachbina. So we'll say, what's a Shachbina? Shegavinov. Shochvim. But say this is someone whose eyebrows are so long that they rest on his eyes. Zagdum. What's a zagdum? So echad shachar ve'echad lavan. Ultimately, again, where one is black and one is white. So we'll say this is eyebrows. One is black, one is white. Tana kol zuga delo shavi lahadadi zagdum karile. So we'll say ultimately again, anytime that you have eyebrows that do not match each other, that is called zagdum. So we'll say, so just the machlokis over here as to whether or not zagdum is a reference to the eyes or to the eyebrows. Hatziran, what's the tziran? Einov trutos. Rabbi will say this refers to someone, ultimately again, who has rounded eyes. So apparently again, rounded eyes is considered to be a mum. Vitziranios, so we'll say tziranios, Rashi says, are agulos yoser mitrutos, even more rounded eyes. So apparently, trutos are a bit rounded, tsironios are very rounded. Domos means ultimately, again, his eyes water up, but it's a little bit. Dolphos, his eyes water up a lot. Vitordos, Rashi says, Yosem Dolphos, eyes water up even more. So I say, interestingly enough, whether your eyes constantly water up a little, intermediate amount, or a lot, that is also considered to be a mum. Tana, we go weiter. Hazodir v'halufin v'atumyan. So I say, so who are these people? Right, these are all mumin. Zavir is the, I'm sorry, where did I leave off over here? I lost the place. I'm sorry. The mazur eine. So we'll say Zavir means ultimately, again, the eyes roll. Lufin, dinefishin zeife. Lufin means the eyelashes are very long. Tumin, shetamu zifav. If you look at Rashi over here, Rashi says, not yet. So Tumin Shetamu Zifa Vahani Gabi Mumin Tanalu. So I'll say ultimately again we learned all of these by the general list of Mumin. Vatanan, but we learned Shenishru is saying of puzzle that if a person's eyelashes fall out, then ultimately it's a psul mipnei marasa'ayin. Then I will say here's what's interesting. You just mentioned falling out eyelashes as a mum. We learned elsewhere that it's mishum marasayin. And also remember again, we saw in yesterday's daf that it's not just semantics. You say to yourself, what does it matter if it's a mum, zera aron, marasayin? So it does make a very big difference. Why does it make a big difference? Because remember again, we saw if the Kohen ends up doing the avoda with one of these mumin, is the avoda good or not? Well, it depends on the nature of the mum. So you just told me that the lack of eyelashes is a mum. We learned that it's an issue of marasayin. Lo kasha, hadi ishtayer gardume, hadlo ishtayer gardume. To which the Gemara says, not a contradiction. One is where the roots of the eyelashes remained in. If the roots remained in, then ultimately, again, it's not a mum. If the entire lash came out, including the root, then it is considered to be a mum. Good. Mishnah. Einav gidolos kishal egel or kitanos kishal avas. If a Kohen has eyes that are as large as a calf or as small as a goose, that's a mum. Gufo gadol me'ivarav. If his body is larger than his limbs. O katan me'ivarav. Or his limbs are larger than his body, right? Also a mum. Chotmo gadol me'ivarav. If his nose is disproportionately large. O katan me'ivarav. Or disproportionately small. Right? Ultimately, this is a mum. Hatsomim v'hatsomea. So those are also mum. Ezut somim. What is it somea? What is it somea? Kol sha'aznav kitanos. Anyone whose ears are unusually small. Vatsomim. What is this? Kol sha'aznav domos lisfog. Anyone whose ears are like a sponge. In other words, that we'll say they're what's the word? Shrivel. Thank you. They're shriveled like a sponge. Sfaso al yono defas al tachtona. Hatachtona odefas al yono harezemo. If he has an overbite or an underbite. But I will say this is not just about the jaw. This is about the lip. Right? If the upper lip covers the lower lip or the lower lip extends over the upper lip, this is a mum as well. Vishanishru shinav pasal mebnei maras ayin. This is what I say is interesting. So up until I was speaking about mumin. Now the Mishnah is off by saying, and if his teeth fall out, then ultimately again, this is marasayim. Not a mum, not even zera aron, but ultimately again marasayim. Amarav. Moshe Rabbeinu Esher Amos Harabos. Listen to this. So Rav says Moshe Rabbeinu, Chazal tell us, was 10 amos tall, pretty tall. Shene Emar Vayifrosh Es HaOhel Al HaMishkan. So what say? So the pasuk says, so Vayifros, that they went ahead and they said, remember the Mishkan itself didn't have a regular roof, but rather again it had skins on top of it. So therefore, again, Moshe Rabbeinu was the one who put the skins on top of the roof of the Mishkan. So the Gemara says, so Vayifros Esa Ohel Ala Mishkan, Mi Parso, who went ahead and put the skins on top of the Ohel? Moshe Rabbeinu Parso. Moshe Rabbeinu was the one who went ahead and spread the skins on top of the Ohel. Ksiv Esher Amos Orech HaKesh. I will say, how tall was the Mishkan? The Mishkan itself was 10 amos tall. So therefore, if Moshe Rabbeinu, Rabbi said, the assumption is in order to be able to go ahead and spread the roof skins over the top, you'd have to be that tall. So therefore, we see Moshe Rabbeinu was 10 amos tall. So we'll say, by the way, it's not for our discussion today. There's a lot of discussions about what this exact measurement means by Moshe Rabbeinu. But again, we're not going to get into it today, but just understand there's much more to this discussion. So Amar Rav Sina Bar Chiyah Rav, Im Kena Sisa LeMoshe Rabbeinu Bal Mum. But if this indeed was Moshe Rabbeinu's height, then you've made Moshe Rabbeinu into a Bal Mum. Now, why would you have made Moshe Rabbeinu into a Bal Mum? Because ultimately, again, if you look at Rashi Bal Mum, the Gufo Gadol Mizra'osav, the Hakol Adam in Gufo Ela Shalosh Amos Ba'amaso. So it's like, because we're assuming over here that you make it sound like Moshe Rabbeinu's height is one way, but his arm length would be like a regular person. And in which case, again, he would have been a Baal Mum. Like, because what did we just say in the Mishnah? We just said in the Mishnah that if the size of your limbs does not match the proportions of your body, that is a Baal Mum. To which the Gemara says, this nan, Gufo Gadol Me'evarav Akatan Me'evarav, Amar Lei, he said to him, Simi, Ba'ama Shal Karesh Ka'amar, Simi, Moshe Rabbeinu's Amma was different ultimately again than a regular Amma, which Rabbi essentially says that Moshe Rabbeinu's limbs were in proportion. At the end of the day, when we say that a person's height is 3 times the Amma, right, the distance from the top of his hand ultimately again to his elbow, Moshe Rabbeinu's Amma was not measured ultimately by a regular Amma, but his Amma was measured by his own Ammas. In other words, what the Gemara essentially answers is Moshe Rabbeinu's proportions were proportional, right? His limbs were the same proportions as his body. Good. Chotmo Gadol. Both say, so if he has a large nose, this is actually very interesting. So it doesn't mean if he has a large nose. This is supposed to be the problem with these situations is what? It seems to be a bit subjective. Who determines that? To which the Gemara says, Tana ke'etzba kitana. So we'll say what we do is we look at what people of this height, this proportion, right? What size noses does a regular person of these dimensions have? And if this Kohen's nose is larger, even by the width of a pinky, ke'etzba kitana, ultimately, again, then you fit the large nose criteria. Nothing wrong with you. We love you. But you're going to find something else to do with your days other than the avodah. Hatzimein v'hatzimeah. So we'll say, what's simein and simeah? So this is actually very interesting. Remember again, simein and simeah, so the Mishnah already defined as very small ears or shriveled up ears. Tana, afat simeah. So we'll say the Mishnah, so the Brisa says, even the simeah. Lo havi yadir abana ma'at simeah. Well, this is amazing. So we had this Brisa that said, even a simeah is possible. The rabbis did not know what is a simeah. What is that? So Shmuel So they heard an Arab merchant who was selling in the marketplace. He was crying out, "Who wants to buy a tzimeach? Who wants to buy a tzimeach?" So the rabbi said, let's go see what he's selling. Vishtachach gadya chaziza, and they found a kid, right, the gedi, with very long ears. So tzimeach means long ears. Good. Amar Rav Chisda, Eiz she'in la karnayim, v'rachel she'ish la karnayim, k'she'im l'gav mizbeach. So Chisda said, if you have an Eiz, a goat, that does not have horns, or a Rachel that does have horns, they are kosher for the mizbeach. Tanya Rabbi that supports this. Yesh devarim she'in kemumin ve'einin kemumin. Ultimately, again, b'shochalem mikdash aval medina. We have things that are mumin, but yet they're not treated like mumin. We would allow you to shecht it in the Beis HaMikdash, but not outside of the Beis HaMikdash. And what are examples of this? Ve'elu'ein, Eiz she'in lo karnayim, v'rachel she'ish lo karnayim, like a goat that doesn't have horns, or Rachel that does have horns. Hat simeach v'hat simein v'hat someah. Ultimately, simeach, simein, someah. Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Amimar. Not look. So we'll say these are all examples of things that are quote unquote mumin, meaning they are deformities or abnormalities, but yet they do not go ahead and preclude the animal from sacrificial service. Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Amimar. Not look karnosa v'zichrusan iman psulan. Vein poldin alein. We'll say interesting. Amimar says that if you took off the horn, v'zichrusan. So we'll say interestingly enough, what you have is like this. Inside of the horn has 2 parts. Inside of the horn is, there's the horn. The bottom part of the horn is what the Gemara calls the zichrus, which is like a hard, bony material. And then the upper part of the horn is hollow. We're going to talk about this more in depth. So the Gemara says, if you cut off the horn of the animal, and you take off the bony part along with it, that's a mum, and the animal is puzzle. Vein poldin alei, you can't redeem the animal. Not look talafayim v'zichrusan iman. Similarly, again, if you were to remove the hoof, including the bony part inside of the hoof, Psulin, that is a psul, couldn't offer on the mizbeach. V'niftin aleihem. But interestingly enough, you'll be able to redeem the animal as a result of that mum. May say the Gemara is the kasha, not lukanai v'talfeihen v'zichrusen imam psulim v'niftis aleihem. So also yet the Gemara says over here that if you remove the horns or the hoofs and the zichrus together, right? You remove the horns or the hoofs and the bony part together, psula, the animal is passed on, it can't be redeemed. So we'll say that contradicts what we just said about horns before. Lo kasha, hadi is akar, hadi igum agumi. To which the Gemara says, it depends what you did. Look at Rashi for just a second over here. B'did ikor ikuri, Rashi says, 3 lines up from the bottom. Kanai v'shasha zichrus v'nira guma barosh. We'll say if you took off the horn in such a way that you removed the horn together with the bony part and you left an indentation in the head of the animal, that's a mum that ultimately allows for redemption as well. Masha'in kain, if you just go ahead and what? If you just go ahead and kind of cut off the horn in its entirety, but level it out with the head of the animal, that was the first case. So the Gemara says, Orminu, para shekarnau tlafesh chorim, yagud, ultimately was the interesting case. If you have a para aduma, but the para aduma ultimately has some black on its horns. So what should you do with the black on its horns? Yagud, cut it off. Cut it off. I both say, now that's very interesting. Now what does that mean? We just saw before that what? Cutting off horns is what? Is a mum. It's a mum. So now, we'll say, remember again, if you put a mum on your para aduma, you're out. Yet here you're telling me that there's black on the should the os, which the Gemara says, don't worry, Tirgama Zihiri, Me'ilu Zichrus. This is talking about a case also where you're cutting off the hollow part of the bone. If you cut off the hollow part of the bone, ultimately, again, this does not create a mum problem. Beautiful. Mishnah. We'll say Tiyah Mumin. So we'll say the Mishnah goes on with an interesting case. Dadav shochvin kishal isha. So we'll say if a man has some type of disorder with his mammary glands, so he looks like a woman. He has a chest like a woman. Dadav shochvan kishal isha. Or kresot sava. Now we'll say kresot sava means his stomach is large. This doesn't just mean like he's obese. This means like his stomach is distended. So we'll say, or tiburo yotze, or ultimately again, his navel sticks out. Nichbe, afilu achas liyamim, he has seizures, even once in a while. Ruach kitzara ba'a alav, or I both say he literally, ruach kitzara ba'a is interesting. Rashi says, ruach shade. He's possessed. He's possessed. Which I both say, what does it mean he's possessed? It means that he's mentally unstable. He's mentally unstable. He has bouts of instability. So we'll say ba'in alav. So we'll say ha'mu'ushban. So we'll say mu'ushban. Rashi says beitzav gidolim. He has unusually enlarged testicles. Ubal gever. Rashi says gido gadol. The male member is very large. All of these are going to be mumin. Good. Get it out now. Go ahead. Go ahead. Good. All right. Good. Let's go. Let's say if I see anyone on their phones with this, I'm just telling you right now, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it. Good. So let's go like this. It says the Gemara. So Rabbi Abba said the sentence following. We'll say this is actually this is fast. So we're gonna see in all of these cases. So mashtinin mayim b'fnei rabin. We'll say this, by the way. So this is actually very interesting. We're going to see the connection over here, but the Gemara is talking about the need to take care of your bodily needs when they arise. So we'll say, so the halacha is mashtinin mayim b'fnei rabin. You could urinate even in public. Even in public. Now we'll say, now what's the pshat over here? Ve'in shosin mayim b'fnei rabin. Yet you shouldn't drink water in public. Now we'll say, now what does this mean? Look at Rashi. Ein shosin mayim. Derech Talmud Chacham lios tsanua ba'achilu b'shtia. It is the way of a Talmud Chacham not to eat publicly, to be tzanua with his eating and drinking. Aval lahatil mayim lo lehavi tzanua shema yamtin v'yistakin. So we'll say this is part of a general motif in Chazal that they felt that by holding it in, right, holding yourself back from urinating or defecating has detrimental health effects. So this doesn't. I want to be clear. Chazal are not encouraging public urination. Right? But what they're saying is that when a person has to relieve themselves, they should take care of their bodily needs as quickly as possible, even if it means ultimately urinating in public. So the Gemara says, Rabbi said that supports this. You are allowed to go ahead and urinate even in a public place. But again, a Talmud Chacham shouldn't drink water. So we'll say the contrast over here is even a Talmud Chacham who's supposed to be so tsanua in his actions that he shouldn't eat and drink in public, if he has to urinate, we're so concerned about the detrimental health effects on holding back from urinating, that he should even do so in public. Both says, listen to this. So both say, ultimately, there was once an episode of a guy who had to urinate and he didn't do so. V'nimtzo kreisa stava. So literally means his stomach swelled up. So we'll say, so first of all, understand that that Chazal's command of medicine is based on whatever was known at the time. So did this guy's stomach swell up because he didn't urinate, or was something else going on? Who knows? But at the end of the day, Chazal felt that holding yourself back from urinating could have extremely deleterious effects. And therefore, if you have to go, then go. So listen to what the Gemara tells a story. Shmuel itztrich le b'shabsa de rigla. So let's listen to this. Shmuel one time was giving his shir, ultimately again in the Shabbos before the Yom Tiv. Right, so we'll say the halach is 30 days before the Yom Tiv, people would gather together to learn ultimately again about the Yom Tiv. So Shmuel is giving his major shir, right, his major communal shir. And what happened? He had to urinate in the middle of the shir. Nogdule glima. So we'll say, so his Talmidim were there. They held up a cloak. They provided him a barrier, and he relieved himself. So Shmuel came before his father. I would give you 400 zuz for you to go back and to urinate again, but this time do it without the cloak. Right? So his father was saying, you made a mistake. You should have just gone ahead and urinated right then and there. Now, Abba said, that doesn't mean it literally. What is he saying to his son? He's saying, see, Shmuel, you're going to have to explain your reasoning. Okay, of course. We'll say, let's be clear. Chazal are not saying, if a person has to urinate and there's a bathroom or an open field where people are picnicking, right? So Chazal are not saying, well, go to the public field, make a macho. Everybody's got to be a kanai about something. Public urination is my thing. Right? I'm a flag-waving public urinator, right? So I'll say, so that's not what Chazal are saying, right? Obviously, when you could preserve the mode of tznius, of course that's what you do. Chazal are making a point that if you really have to relieve yourself and there's no private facility, then you could do it publicly. Of course you go ahead and do whatever you can to maintain proper tznius, but nevertheless you go ahead and you do what has to be done. So the problem that Shmuel's father had was that he was nervous that his son had perhaps conveyed the wrong message by saying ultimately that these things cannot be done publicly, only be done privately. So the Gemara says, Mar Baravashi, it's the amazing story. Mar Baravashi had to urinate and he was standing on a bridge. So Ishtin, he urinated on the bridge or off the bridge. Amar le chamoseich ka'asya. So they said to him, your mother-in-law is coming. Amar le bu'udna. So we'll say, literally translated, what this means is, I'll do it in her ear. Now we'll say, now listen very carefully. Be on the record as saying, there's absolutely no event in which you could use this Gemara. There's nothing there's not, the other Gemaras will tell you this is a good word, you can use this. This is for your own edification and understanding. There's no contemporary application of this. So the Rashi says in here, I would even relieve myself in her ear. So he was trying to make a point that at the end of the day, now what they were telling him was it's a lack of tznius. I will say, actually interesting, the Marshal points out that bu'udne actually means something else. It doesn't literally mean that he would urinate in her ear. What he's saying is, I will say that there's a concept of she's going to hear you urinating. So stop. Stop. She's not going to see you. He's obviously hiding himself, or she's going to hear you. So he said, listen, I understand. Under normal circumstances, I would avoid this. But because there's a need to take care of oneself, that supersedes everything else. Okay. So the Gemara said, "V'seifok mushuk alka." So what's like going back? Remember how this whole discussion started? This whole discussion started because this guy who didn't relieve himself, and his stomach became distended. So he said it's because he didn't urinate. To which the Gemara says, maybe not. Maybe it's because mishum alka, right? Maybe it's because some Rashi says Rashi says over here, Have Dilma al Kashasa. Maybe he drank. Maybe he ended up drinking a leak. Right? Alkas literally mean a leak. Maybe something else happened to him that caused this. To which the Gemara says Beshoses. No, because the situation over here was with this guy where he held in his urine for so long that even when he tried to relieve himself, he could not get a flow of urine. The urine only trickled out. The fact that it trickled out, they attributed that ultimately again to the fact that he had held it back too long. Tan Rabbanan. Rabbi said this is one of these amazing Gemaras. Shnei mekarim yesh bo ba'adam. A person has two internal tubes. Echad motzi shasan, ve'echad motzi shichvas zera. One goes ahead and transports the urine, and one transports the semen. The Rabbi said we know anatomically this is not correct, right? There's one tube, the urethra, right? That ultimately everything. Right, Josh, I'm good with this. Good. And so ultimately, again, there's one tube that comes out. So we'll say this is actually interesting, not our topic for today, but this is actually fascinating. The Chazon Ish has a whole discussion about this. So how do you reconcile this? It could just be that Chazal just didn't understand. They, like I said, the Chazal's command of science is based on what was known at the time. So they might have thought that there are two different tubes, one for semen and one for urine. So actually, you will say there's another possibility of nishtana hateva. That maybe there were anatomical changes that take place in people over time, and maybe anatomically, once upon a time, things were a bit different. But lemaisa, again, we know that in fact today this is not the way anatomically people are set up. But anyway, you're going to see why this is important nevertheless. The Gemara says, "Ve'ein bein zela ze eliki klipas hashum," and I will say there's only a very small, literally, very small membrane, right? A very small membrane, like the peel of an onion, in between these two tubes. And halacha lemaisa, we'll say if either of the tubes become perforated into each other, ultimately a person can become sterile. Okay, Amarish Lakish. This is amazing. So we'll say, what does it mean when it says the pasuk says there will not be in your right bechad, there will be no sterile male men or women in your people, ubem techa, and in your flock. So we'll say this is a bracha for what's the word? Not fruitfulness. What's the fertility? Thank you. This is a bracha for fertility, both for people and in their animals. So the Gemara says, when will there not be sterility in your people? Bisman shebem techa. We'll say this is amazing when you conduct yourself like animals. What does that mean? We'll say just like the animals take care of their needs whenever and wherever they have to, so too if a person is careful to always go ahead and take care of his bodily needs whenever necessary, halacha l'maaseh, again, that will prevent sterility. Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, lo yebecha akar min hatamidim. We'll say ultimately again there will not be anyone amongst you who is sterile. That means you will have tamidim. We'll say having tamidim means you'll have offspring. You'll have offspring, meaning you won't be sterile. Akara shalote tfilascha akur lefnei hamakom, that your tfilos will not be stunted. Right? When you daven for a family, your tfilos will not be stunted. When is that? In Masai, bisman sha'ata mesim atzmecha kebehema. When you make yourself like a behema. So it's actually quite amazing. See, Silber, we would never say, we always say our goal in life is to make ourselves as dissimilar from animals as possible, apparently except in one area. Where it comes to relieving yourself, just as the animals relieve themselves whenever they need to, so too people have to do that as well. Amar Papa, lo yashtin adam mayim, lo akli chares v'lo amakom kasha. But say Papa is talking to the Jews of Bavel. In Bavel, you should not go ahead and urinate into an earthenware utensil. So we'll say, this is, Rashi says, is an ovet. This is like a bedpan. Like a bedpan. Don't go ahead and urinate into a bedpan, right? And not on hard earth. Why? Rashi says, look at Rashi. Lo akli chares, v'soch avet shalmemi raglayim, lefi shem ashlichin oso benar b'samach lahem. V'naros Bavel, holchin u'misakvin be'ein idal kinefarish. Well, so listen to this. Because what happens when you urinate in a pot in Bavel? They dump it into the rivers. Similarly, if you urinate on hard earth where it doesn't get absorbed into the ground, it flows into the rivers. And what happens? And Abba say if it flows into the rivers of Bavel, the Amarav, Hani Maduri de Bavel, Mahadri Ma'ila Ein Eitam. And Rav said that ultimately, again, the rivers of Bavel flow into Ein Eitam, the spring of Eitam in Eretz Yisrael, actually by Yerushalayim. And therefore, again, if you end up urinating in these places in Bavel, you end up hurting the water supply of Eretz Yisrael. Incredible. Amar Abaye, Hai Isisa, de lo takum lahade ba'anpi yenuka, agisa leslamba. So Abaye says, similarly again, when urinating, a woman should not urinate directly in front of a child, because again, remember the halachos of relieving yourself apply anywhere. So the idea is, what the Gemara is saying over here, if she could move to the side a little bit and not urinate directly in front of the child, that is certainly preferable. And I will say, this is not just a din by women, this is a din in general. What the Gemara is saying over here is, as much as we've told you, go ahead and urinate whenever and wherever you have to, halacha l'maisa, when possible to do it with a certain mode of tznius, one should absolutely do so. Good. The both say Tanya or Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer Amud hachozer maybe adam lideh darkon. So both say Reb Shimon Gamliel says Amud hachozer means if a person begins to defecate and then pulls the waste back into his body, right? That's called Amud hachozer. So Reb Shimon Gamliel says it brings a person to a darkon. So we'll say it causes sickness. If you look at Rashi says over here. She says over here, Hidarkon chole me'ayim, right? It causes some type of internal illness. Silon achozer, saying was a person that begins to urinate and then stops the flow. Maybe adam lidei yarkon. But say yarkon literally means jaundice, right? But again, the point over here the Gemara is saying is if you begin to relieve yourself and then you pull it back, ultimately it causes illness. Amar Rabba Baravuna Amarav Katina Amar Shlakish. Dam Rabba, Shchin Rabba. This is actually very interesting. So here the Gemara says like this. So all these rabbis say in Rish Lakish, Dam Rabba, too much blood causes boils. Shchin Rabba. And I will say, then what does that mean, too much blood? So remember again, we'll say this is talking about Chazal obviously extolled the need for bloodletting, right? Bloodletting was a big thing. So if you don't bloodlet enough, ultimately again it causes sickness. Shchin Rabba. Shichvas Zera Rabba, too much semen. Rabba saying this is actually interesting. Actually, Shichvas Zera Rabba, Mishi Yeshlo Isha, someone who is married, Ve'eno Mishamish Mitaso, and does not engage in intimacy on a regular basis. Remember again, I will say Chazal in Ksuvis discuss ultimately again the frequency of Ona. So Marbet Saras, I will say again, so if a man doesn't have the release of Shichvas Zera, he doesn't have the release through a regular intimate relationship, then what? So the Gemara says, Shichva zer rabba, sara'as rabba. I will say, now whether sara'as over here means sara'as, like we know sara'as, actual leprosy. The point over here, what the Gemara is saying over here is if a person doesn't have that regular release, it causes problems for the individual. So a rabba, I will say if a person has an accumulation of waste, right, and does not relieve, it does not defecate, so hidarkon rabba, that causes this hidarkon. Mei raglayin rabbim, too much urine, yerkon rabba, ultimately again causes this jaundice. Good. So ruach katzris ba'alach. So most remember again we said that if a person has literally the Mishnah described it as being possessed by a demon, but really what it means is mental instability. Ma'inihu. So tana ruach ben nefalim ba'alav. So we'll say, so the Gemara defines this as ruach ben nefalim. Okay, so literally again it's some type of ruach, some type of shade which possesses the person. So we'll say understand that in the ancient world, people obviously didn't understand mental illness. They didn't understand mental illness. So what was mental illness? Mental illness was you're possessed. That's how they understood it. So you see now Chazal understood mental illness because Chazal speak about mental illness. But again, sometimes when these words are used about being possessed, so this was like colloquially that mental illness was described. So someone who's mentally ill, ultimately again possessing mental illness is unfit for the kahuna. So the Gemara goes back to Bosa. Let's end off. Ha'mu'ushpan ubal gever. So we'll say Tana mu'ushpan bebeitzim. So we'll say mu'ushpan means a man who has unusual shebeitzav gidolim, unusually large beitzim. Ubal gever, and we'll say what this is talking about is in an abnormal sense, an abnormality. Ubal gever begid, and we'll say the bal gever is talking about by the male member, right, by the gid. Tana mishuban zehakyon. So we'll say these are all different names for the same condition. So Meshuban, which is the enlarged beitzim, that's also Hakyon. Hagarbasan ze balkik. So we'll say what we called the balgever, that's also called garbasan, also called balkik. All the same name for the same condition. So the Gemara says kanyon bebeitzim. So we'll say the condition of kanyon is with the beitzim. Garvosa begid, and garvosa is with the gid, with the male member. Va'ad kama. So we'll say we'll say halacha is all about shiurim. So like what are we talking about over here, right? In terms of the beitzim and the gid. Va'ad kama. So machvi Rabbi Yehuda ad rukuva. Rabbi Yehuda said if the gid extends down to the knee, so ultimately again that is a mum. Tanya Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Omer ad rukuva pasul lemala min rukuva kasher. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov said until the knee is pasul, above the knee will be kasher. Iker da amri ad rukuva kasher. Others say up until the knee is kasher. Lemata min rukuva. Others say up until the knee is okay. Below the knee ultimately again will be problematic. So we'll say these are the movement ultimately again as they apply to the beitzim and to the gid. We'll stop over in Meretz Hashem. I'm going to record the parsha thought after davening. Shkoyach.
Did he stop it?